Okay, here's the bit at the beginning, yada, yada, yada. You know, little funny bit at the start of the episode that ends with...
Welcome to the Failing Writers Podcast.
Boys, I had a really nice experience on Saturday.
Did you, John?
I did. I did some writing. I did quite a lot of writing. Genuinely did quite a lot of writing. Katie was away, and one of my sons is on a school trip, and the other one's got his GCSEs, so he's revising quite a lot. But I actually spent pretty much the whole day writing, and it made me think, you see, this is like a vindication that I'm not just lazy or procrastinating. I am just busy.
Not just that. No,
and that as well, yes, but not just that.
So what did you do then, John?
I was working on my book.
What were you beavering away at?
I was working on my book. I was writing. Wow. I was writing a couple of scenes that I'd forgotten that I had just written. He runs away, or he does this. When I went back and was having a good look through it, but also doing a bit of editing and just sort of moving things around and. Yeah, but it did. It made me think. It was sort of gave me a little window into a life where I could almost imagine myself as a writer.
Almost.
Do
you know? I did some productive writery stuff as well.
Nice.
Whilst we're blowing our own trumpets.
Yes. Spooky War Book?
Yeah, well, you did. I mentioned to you, I think. Did I mention to you that I was going to do one of these, go and sit in a room with a load of other people and try and write stuff?
Oh, so you did that?
I did. So I booked it in advance. I think it was called Shut Up and Write at the Watershed in Bristol.
Brilliant.
And I booked it all, and I looked at the list of other people who were going to be there, and I sort of found where it was supposed to be, and I went along. And I went up to the bar and I said, "Oh, I'm here for the shut up and write type thing," and they went, "The what?" I said, "For the writers group meeting." No, there's no one here for that. They usually sat over there, but there's no one here. So I don't know what the hell happened.
They knew you were coming, Dave.
Yeah. No one. One other person turned up. I saw one other chap walking around like he'd lost something.
Did you say hi to him? Are you a writer?
I said, "Hello, are you here to write something?" And it turned so there's just me and him. Me and him sat in a room, and bless him, he still bothered to get his phone out and time what we were doing, so we had the appropriate length of time. Bless him.
So how long?
It was like 45 minutes, and then a little break, and then another 45 minutes.
And did you chat with anyone else? Did you chat with any of your fellow writers on the break and have a...
No, just had a chat with some drunk out the front. 1,800 words.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
So it's working.
I got something done, yeah. Well, there was literally nothing else to do. There's a lot to be said for that. There was no interruptions.
I think that's really true.
Didn't bother connecting to the Wi-Fi, so there was no emails or anything like that. Just sat down and wrote. It was great.
I do find I do write really well in cafes and things.
Yeah, well, I've
got nowhere to go.
Yeah, I've always worried about whether it would just look really pretentious, but... No, just got on with it.
Very good. Well, for a change, things are going in the right direction.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Oh my God, I did loads of writing at the weekend.
Oh my God,
virtually
what have you been writing?
All Sunday, I pretty much got through the entire first edit of my kids' book.
What?
Wow,
is this true? This is mental. What's happened to us?
And I said to send off 5 submission pieces as part of my
writing plans.
Year's goals.
Yeah.
First one of them got sent off.
What? So, it's finally working. It's finally all coming together.
This is incredible.
Scary, isn't it? All 3 of us. Has that happened before? That's not happened before, is it? With all 3.
This is
There's always been one going, well, good for you guys.
I think the stars might finally be aligning. I think that's what it is. We've put the work in. We've done our shifts, and we're reaping the rewards. And
it's all coming together.
Yeah. Long may it continue.
Well, that's it's not always the case with us. Sometimes things don't always go as planned.
No,
do they?
We've had a bit of a chat about this because we've done an interview. We mentioned it at the end of the last episode, and we were excited about doing it.
Yeah.
With Flora Opil, and it didn't go exactly as planned. And
it wasn't perfect, was it? It wasn't perfect. But
no, and I don't think it should be on the podcast. I don't think we should be putting it.
Now, come on, we've talked about this before.
What else are we going to do now?
I know, but
yeah, we don't have to. I don't have any other time free.
No, I get
to
you said.
to do anything else.
I think it was you that said it is what happened. It's a fair reflection of what happened, and it is what it is. I get that.
Yeah,
Just,
we owe a level of sort of authenticity.
I think for the sake of
warts and
truth
all.
and candour, we just play the interview in its entirety, let the fallout happen. It's like any of these things. Looking back, you think, yes, I probably could have handled that better. Like, I think probably all of us.
I don't think
could
it was off. I don't think it was awful. I'm not saying that. I don't think it
there
was.
were elements, maybe. But anyway, it's quite an interview, and it's very different to the chats we've had with other authors in the past. So I'd say we play it.
If we're going to play it, just play it. We don't need to.
Just do it.
So here it is, a chat with someone who used to be my favourite author. Let's just put it that way. Well, this week we are beside ourselves, I think it's fair to say, with excitement to be joined by one of my favourite contemporary writers. She has written over 10 best-selling books, including the massive literary success from back in 1978, The Man Who Lost His Foot, when she was only 20 years old. And she's had a fascinating, if somewhat dramatic life, which we might get into later. It is the one and only Flora Opal. Flora, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Very thrilled
for joining
to
us.
have you on.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here.
That's a good
That's
start.
very nice of you. I first came across your writing via my local bookshop at the time, the Oxfam second-hand bookshop in Headingley, where I bought Swollen Gantry, and I really enjoyed it. It was very experimental, and I was quite into that kind of stuff at the time.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, what was it that inspired that story? Because it was quite, I want to say it was quite out there, if that makes sense.
Yes, it was. I think what inspired it was, I don't want to use the word breakdown, but that's probably what they'd call it now. At the time, I just thought it was a bit tired.
Yeah.
But now, you'd call it something, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's probably.
I don't know.
A full breakdown.
Well, not a full one. I mean, I carried on. You do, don't you?
Of course you did.
You finished the book, John.
Well,
You
yes.
finished the book.
Exactly. Well,
She wasn't locked up or anything. Were you locked up?
No.
You weren't locked up or
no,
anything. She finished the
no.
book.
Yes, would that all breakdowns were so creative and fruitful.
Yes, it doesn't always end that way, does it?
No.
I mean, it does. Yeah. I mean, that makes more sense in that context.
I mean, it was after my third divorce.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think probably, things had just got a bit on top of me.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And do you think that was a huge part of it must have been a huge part of the influence for that book?
The divorce.
The divorces and the breakdown?
Yes.
Yeah, was it all...
I don't want to give him any credit for it,
No.
All the credit's mine for putting up with him for so long, probably.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, but also alimony becomes tricky if you give someone credit. So I would say it definitely was my state of mind was an influence, and also my feelings of freedom.
Yeah.
And I think the feeling of freedom led to the freedom of the prose.
Yes.
Yeah, because the structure of that book was very interesting. It's not much of a... It doesn't have a linear narrative, does it?
No. I was, I was trying something new. I think it worked incredibly well, and I stand by it. A lot of people disagreed, but I'd say they were wrong. And I thought, well, linear's been done, hasn't it?
A lot. It's been done a lot.
Let's try something,
Well, a story should have a start, a middle, and an end.
Or should it?
People should think about which order those need to go in, shouldn't they, Flora?
Well, quite. Or even if they're needed at all.
Right. How?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we only think that because life has a start, a middle, and an end.
Yes, that's probably true, isn't it? And we relate story to life.
Exactly, and I think that's small-minded.
Yeah. Why does there have to be an end? Why does there have to be a start?
Right. Just begin when you begin, but that's not the beginning, and end when it ends.
Yeah.
But it hasn't ended. Yeah.
No, I mean, has it ended?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Was
there an end in the book that you read, John, or did it just?
There's no full stop.
No, it sort of ended in the middle of a sentence.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I suppose that was That was part and parcel of what, in a way, it sort of led back round to the beginning of the book. But I suppose the beginning wasn't really the beginning, in a way.
No,
But yeah.
and, it ended in the middle of a sentence because I did lose the last page of the manuscript.
Oh, right.
And-
That was
and-
the original.
Yeah, and I thought, well, let's just stick with that then.
Yeah.
But no one noticed until it had
Wow.
been printed. That was
Different times.
Well, I suppose it leaves everything open to interpretation, doesn't it? When you don't know when one sentence has ended and the next one's began, you can read it.
Yeah.
You can read it however you want. You can make your own story from the story.
Yes, except there is a story.
Oh, yeah. Very much a story,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So that was a big departure from your debut novel, which was a massive hit.
It was.
But The Man Who's Lost His Foot was very much, I was going to say a bog standard. That sounds terrible, but kind of a
Yes.
No, don't put it that way, Tom.
a traditional novel,
Yes,
a traditional
yeah,
story,
yeah.
Yes.
and award-winning and massively well received. And you were only, what were you, 19, 20 when you wrote that?
20. Yes, I was very
Yeah.
young. Obviously,
Yeah.
sort of like a modern day Mozart. I would call myself. So I was very. I can't think of the word. I'm thinking of the word prolific, but that's not the word I mean. Promiscuous. No.
It starts with P.
Probably.
Probably.
You know when.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So no, I was just making a joke that it might have been probably because that starts with a P. Sorry.
Oh no,
Yeah, no,
I
it's
was
just
probably no. I was thinking of the word. You
Yeah.
know when someone's a child prodigy. I was a prodigy.
Yes.
There we go. It did begin
Yes.
with P.
There we go.
So I was a prodigy.
Yeah.
I was quite young, and I was very influenced by what I'd read. And what I'd read had been mostly, more traditional.
Sort of highbrow literature.
Yes, I love
Things
that.
used to be more traditional in the old days, didn't they?
They
Yeah,
did in the
yeah.
good old days. Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
And can I ask,
Yes.
because one thing about that book that really kind of made it work was the twist at the end. I don't think there's any chance of spoilers 40 years on. Tell us about how you came up with that twist. What it
Well,
was.
it was mostly to do with I'd come up with the title, then I wrote it, and then I thought, wouldn't it be funny if he hadn't lost his foot? So
Yeah.
it was really just a kind of
It's a pretty basic.
this will show them.
Yeah. No one saw that
And
coming.
no one was expecting him to have always had a foot.
No.
Right, yeah, that's true. Which is weird, isn't it? Because you'd think that people wouldn't expect him to not have a
A lot
foot.
of people have
Yeah.
feet.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like a Deus
Right.
Ex Machina ending,
Right.
but the Deus was a
foot.
foot.
Yes.
A foot that was
the
there all along.
Deus Ex
Yeah,
Footicus.
yeah.
Yes. I don't know.
Exactly.
Because it did very well.
It did. I was going to say it did really well, but it did say on your Wikipedia page, and it didn't go into it much. But one of the, I don't know which award it was, you won for it. There was, what happened at the ceremony? Something controversial, or
Was this the Horlicks Young Writers Prize?
right? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that
Yeah.
you did have to drink a lot of Horlicks, and I don't know if you've ever OD'd on Horlicks,
Right.
but it does rather make you rather sleepy.
I guess that's what it's designed to do, isn't it?
Exactly. So I was asleep when they announced
yeah.
the winner.
Ah.
Fast asleep, and everyone said, "Oh dear, she's probably drunk." I wasn't. I was,
Oh, God.
Yes.
drunk on Horlicks.
Off you what's it's on Horlicks.
Yes,
on
because it
malt.
is very heavily fortified.
It is,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's a lot to
Isn't it?
Yeah.
No
digest.
one drinks it anymore.
No.
Yes, and I always think, why don't people drink that anymore? They're all after hot chocolate these days, and it's all fancy hot chocolate, isn't it? None of that powdered
Yes.
stuff that we used to drink. But I like the powdered stuff, and I like Horlicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say, bring back the old.
You know what it is, I reckon? Everyone's gluten-free these days.
Well, yes.
So that might be the problem.
Is there gluten in Horlicks?
Probably
quite
it's
a lot.
malty, isn't
Probably.
it?
Yeah.
It's entirely
Yeah.
gluten. Yeah, it's just.
Is malt gluten?
I think malt has gluten. I don't think malt is gluten. Malt has gluten.
Yeah.
It was much easier when we didn't have to think about what things were, and you could just enjoy them.
The allergic people would just fall by the wayside, and we could all just
Yes,
carry on
you
with
know.
our life.
Yes,
Natural
yes.
selection.
Exactly.
Because that was 1979, I think, when you won the Horlicks Young Writers Award, which
Yes.
was actually the year I was born, as it happens.
Is it? Oh,
It is, yeah.
oh.
See, Is it difficult, do you think, when someone has so much success so young, like to keep that going into your sort of advancing years?
I've never found it difficult, I wouldn't say. I've found it... there was certainly, there's been a large gap recently. Partly, I think, because when if you start at 50 or 60, you've probably only got to fill 20 years or so with writing. But if you start at, 20, you've got to fill a lot of years. You could be up to 70 years of writing, and that's a lot of words. And I do think, because there aren't... Here's the thing, there are very few new words.
That's true. That is true, yeah.
So I've used all the words that I know.
I suppose you saved a few by finishing one of your books halfway through a sentence.
Well, that's true. That is true.
That was some in the back pocket for later for another book.
Yes. If only I could find that last page. But, it was pre-computers, so it was all handwritten.
How did you start writing as a child? What was it? Was it a school thing or?
Well, I suppose you just sort of had to, didn't you? It was mostly copying to start with, I think, and then you had to write, my holiday, So I wrote about Dungeness quite a lot. That's where we used to go on holiday.
Right.
Wrote a lot about Dungeness. And I think that bleakness of Dungeness has really,
kind of served you well in later.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I suppose rather than talking about the past, we should jump to the present day.
Oh, I wish you would.
Well, okay. So you've had, 15, 20-year gap since your last
20
book?
years, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And that last book wasn't massively successful, was it, or well received? You kind of...
it depends, I suppose, on your definition of success.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Selling copies, I suppose, would be one measure of success.
But you kind of took your bat and ball home a little bit after that, didn't you? Criticising the industry as a whole.
Well, I think the industry has become too obsessed with, shiny new things, and I'm sorry, I'm very distracted. I don't know if you can hear that, but my cat's eating a cardboard box. So I'm sorry if that affects your recording, but that's what that is. It's not a rat.
That's as long as it doesn't affect his digestion.
We've had much stranger background noises.
There we go.
So don't worry about
that.
But so after you'd kind of cocked a snook at the publishing industry, what made you come back 20 years later? What was the reason?
Here's the thing, with all this diversity and, people, new voices. Well, here's the thing. Where are the middle-aged, middle-class female voices? That's what I say. The forgotten generation.
Yeah.
Because the men are fine. They say there's too many, straight white men, but they're still all right, Jack. And then, you've got all the diversity, but where's the middle-aged, middle-class? I mean, all right, middle-aged is pushing it, but where's the, that voice? And I don't think there's enough of it. And I thought, what's missing in the discourse is me.
Yes, your own voice.
My voice.
You're missing your own voice.
Yes, I was missing it very much because, since my sixth divorce, I've been alone with just the cat.
Yeah.
One cat now. I did have 6. I had 1 for each ex-husband. And they've slowly all died, except for the last one who's
the
eating
cats,
cardboard.
or the husbands.
Oh, yes. No, unfortunately, only half of the husbands have died.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's terrible. That's terrible.
Well, no, they were all
You'd
rather
only need
awful.
to get a bigger patio, wouldn't you? Your current book, how's that going as almost like becoming a first-time author again?
Well, yes. It's called Greasing the Tabernacle. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell you. My publisher will probably be cross, but you know what? I don't care.
No, that information is available online.
Oh, it is.
So,
I don't really go online, I have to say. So it's a departure for me because I'm not writing longhand these days.
Okay.
I'm writing on a computer, which I find But what I have to do when I edit is print everything out.
Yeah.
And edit
Type
it on
it
the
back in.
page.
Right.
and then type it up again. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So that's different. And I have gone back to a more linear structure. You'll be sorry to hear if you enjoyed the ones that didn't. But I thought, people don't have a very big attention span these days with all the TikToks.
Yeah, it's like seconds these days, isn't it? You've got to grab people in those first
right.
2 or 3 words.
Yes.
So should we expect something quite grabbing from the first page? Is that?
Well, I would have thought so. It is me. Yes, that's my aim, is to grab.
Excellent.
Not but to grab with enthusiastic consent.
Of course.
I believe that's
Of course.
Yes.
Are you hoping to get like a new audience, do you think, for this new book? Or are you just hoping to sort of reignite the old audience?
Well, a lot of the old audience are probably dead. So I would like a new audience. My worry is that, I'm not... I'll get into trouble, won't I? I'm not woke enough
Okay.
for the new generation,
Well, I was going to dare to ask that if it's because there has been, if you look on Twitter and what have you, with the new book Greasing the Tabernacle, some people have said it's racist in some way.
Well, I wouldn't.
I don't know
well,
how.
I mean, if anyone could explain to me exactly how, then I'd consider it. But I don't. No, I refute that
So
completely.
did it go through any like sensitivity readers and stuff with the publishers, or
They wanted to, and I said no.
right?
Right. And then I believe they said they would do it anyway, and I said, well, good luck with that. And then I've just ignored all the emails since then.
I mean, it is hard.
Right.
It's difficult not to offend somebody, isn't it? I mean, I've not read it personally, but
I'm not offending. You're offended.
right, yeah.
That's isn't it? There's a couple of these comics who say things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't offend you. You can just be offended. I mean, that doesn't really. That's a slight misunderstanding of the English language, but it works to my advantage, so I'll accept it.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I think, probably like most of our listeners, I would guess to say, I personally, I haven't read any of your books. So do you think you could?
Well, you've had a long time to. haven't you? You haven't.
No. Well, I'm not much of a reader, to be honest. But
Right.
I sort of.
That's
I just
probably
wondered,
why you're a failing writer.
that could be something to do with it. Yeah, if I read a bit more,
a fair
perhaps I might
point.
be able to write. But I wondered if you could, for myself and the millions of others who haven't read your books, if you could sum up your writing style in a word or a sentence.
Quixotic and unmissable, and I suggest you do your research when you interview an author. Read the books.
Yes.
And you can get them all on on the books on tape.
Yes.
Now?
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can get the CDs.
Yeah.
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 I read somewhere, Flora, that you refuse to allow your books to be translated into other languages. Is that
Absolutely.
why is that? That seems
Is
like
that any language or like
Well, it's written in English. I spent a long time choosing the exact words, and I don't know any other languages, so I wouldn't be able to tell if they'd used the exact words that corresponded to the exact words that I use. And to be honest, everyone should just learn to read English.
Right.
It's the universal language.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it should remain so. It's very useful.
Yeah.
If everyone knows English, then then there's no problem with communication, is there?
No, it would be a lot easier, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Wouldn't it? Yeah. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying
And
that.
it's a very beautiful language as well, isn't it? English.
It is. Yes. Oh,
In
very.
the right hands.
Well, yeah,
obviously, in the right hands.
Yeah,
it's
but
a
absolutely, and
beautiful language.
my hands are the right hands for English.
Beautiful hands. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So how are the sales progressing for the new book.
Because it's literally only, I think it's only just
a couple of weeks out, isn't it?
launched, isn't it?
Well, I don't read reviews. Haven't read a review since. Obviously, the last book was rather panned, and I wrongly misunderstood. And that was when I realised that reviewers don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
And so I don't read any of those reviews. And as I said, I don't read emails from my publisher if I can help it. So I don't know that that's true, that the sales haven't been good. I rather think they will. And of course, if you do your jobs with a podcast like this properly, and advertise properly and get lots of listeners, then they'll all want to read it. That's why I'm doing these ghastly interviews.
Have you had to do a lot of sort of publicity, like touring, bookshops, signings, that sort of thing?
Oh, I don't. Well, I wouldn't tour now or sign. I mean, signing. Who wants a signed?
I mean, they're
book?
quite popular,
Really?
aren't they?
Yeah,
a lot of
they are still popular.
Yeah.
But now you have to sign thousands of them, and then you're like, well, it's more fun if it's just a one-off. Then it's worth something. But now everything's got a scribble.
Just sign one book.
just
one
sign
book.
and
one.
hide it somewhere.
Yes, maybe I'll do that. Everyone has to go and buy a copy of the book, and I'll sign one book, but it won't be on the front page. It'll be somewhere in the book.
That's
And I'll
clever.
hide it somewhere in the country, and then everyone will have to buy my book.
You have to read it to find out if it's
that
one, like a golden ticket.
Exactly like that,
In a
like
way.
Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're onto something.
That's a good way to encourage people to read, isn't it?
Yeah,
give
'cause
the opportunity. If you don't like the book, at least there's a chance
Found
that it might be worth
exactly, and
something.
but they will like the book, won't they?
Yeah.
I mean,
Of course they will, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Of course they
Goodness
will.
me.
Yes.
Do you get a lot of guests on this?
We do, yeah.
We've had some.
Yeah, we've
a
had
good
quite a
mix.
lot.
We've had quite a few.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I've never listened, I must admit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I suppose we wouldn't
You're not a
necessarily
nice-
expect
No.
you.
Yeah, you're not
to-
necessarily in our demographic of listener, really.
What's your demographic? Well, woke young people.
There's probably a few of those, to be fair.
I think probably.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, our audience are probably a bit more sort of, I guess, in touch with, the sort of latest trends and with, sort of technology and the.
Oh, I see. Oh, I'm not in touch.
Well,
I
no,
see.
I'm not. I'm
I
not
see.
saying that
Yeah,
you're not
no.
in touch. I'm just saying perhaps our audience are a bit more in touch.
You did say before, didn't you, that you don't go online a lot?
Yeah. So
Well,
it's just,
that's because you go online and it's just people complaining
About your racist
things and
books.
saying, well, that, which is ridiculous. And then, I saw something the other day, and a lot of conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Going back to the writing, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Were there any? Have you, in your long career, have you mixed with a lot of other writers? Is there any that you've taken influence from? As kind of part of
Because
the...
you must have been to some good parties, some good
wonderful
literary
parties. Yes, some very good parties. None that I can tell you.
That
Have
good.
you got any gossip you can tell us from
Well,
1983?
not really. Certainly a couple of parties expedited divorces. On my part.
Pick a husband up at a party, divorce him on the next one.
Yes, or pick up someone else's husband. I picked up a lot of
God, right,
husbands
okay.
at parties, but they weren't mine often. And I did have a good time, but it got to the point where you'd say, oh well, who have you been inspired by, or and you'd say someone was an inspiration, and then there'd be accusations of plagiarism and what have you, and I thought it was just misogyny. I mean,
Yeah.
There was you did have a bit of a storm about plagiarism, didn't you, with one of your books?
Yes.
Wasn't that Rant?
Yes, Rant.
That your
Yeah.
sort of polemical novel.
Yes, and a lot of people said it bore quite a lot of resemblance to one of the Amoses. I forget which. And
Right.
and I said, well, that's just because they rant and they're angry. But,
And did that go legal? Did that go?
yes,
to
it
the
did go
courts,
legal,
or-
yes. Yes, it did rather go legal. And that, yes. Yes, it did rather.
Did it go legally in your favour? Yeah.
Well, I mean, in my favour, in that, yeah. Sorry, just having a drink. Yeah, in my favour, morally, if not legally.
So you lost? Did
Yes.
you lose the? You lost the case.
Yes. It's why I lost my last publisher, and also why the hiatus began.
Oh, that was
Right.
down to that court case.
Yes.
I didn't realise that.
No, I mean it was big at the time, but yesterday's news is today's. Well, it's not
No,
chip wrapping.
they can't do that with these woke fish and chip shops.
Absolute madness.
Isn't it?
So you didn't take a break from writing because you just fancied a break. It was more what you could call a sort of enforced absence.
Yeah, ostracised, I guess, from the writing community.
You could say that, or you could say that I was doing research for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I was researching wine mostly.
Okay.
Does wine feature quite a lot in the latest book?
Oh yes,
Right.
Greasing the tabernacle is also, a sort of metaphor for greasing the wheels of creativity.
Yes.
With
okay.
the nectar of the gods.
And that, because I know that there was a period, wasn't there? I think, were you divorcing the writer Ted Rollins during the whole sort of rant period? Because there's a character, isn't there? There's a character in that book called Todd.
Todd Rellins. Yes.
Yeah, is that sort of loosely based on someone?
Well, I mean, you might say so. I wouldn't. There was also a second.
Doesn't want another legal case,
yes,
John.
Yeah, there was a
No.
second.
Is he one of the dead ones?
No. That was a
can't keep
legal
up.
case at the time, and I did win that one morally and legally, because it says any person's living or dead, blah blah.
Yeah.
And he was,
He was living or
sadly
dead,
living.
so it can't be him, can it?
He was the living dead.
Maybe that could be
so-
your next book. If you've got another book in you, maybe do a zombie one.
Yes, well, I mean, why not? It worked for the Jane Austen thing, didn't it? Just put some zombies in, and now they're all winning awards. All the zombies, aren't
Yeah.
What are your plans then for the future? Like, assuming that this book will be the sort of success that you hope it will be, and
they? Well, I know it's going to be a success. Let's not, downplay
Yes,
that.
we
Will be.
We hope it will
At
be.
the minute, it's maybe not looking that way, is it? From what you said,
That's right. Well, I mean, that's what you said. I haven't said that at all. I mean,
You've just not looked. Yeah.
I mean, I've said it's going to be a great success, and I stand by that.
Right,
So
no, I just
you know,
sorry, yeah, no, from maybe just taking a little time to take off because of its racist content. Yeah, well, maybe
It's
maybe.
not. It's not racist. It's not racist. It's just not popular, or not popular in certain circles.
with
but that doesn't make
ethnic
it
communities,
racist.
or yeah, okay, yeah,
Well, I don't know because I don't
care.
speak to any.
Right.
But if things do pick up and it becomes a success, do you think what?
Can
what
we
would-
use the
what's your
word
plan?
when? Can we use the word when?
Sorry, when? Yeah, absolutely. When it takes off, when it
Yeah.
finally takes off, and you start to sell some copies, and perhaps the sort of publisher asks you for another book, that would be the sort of what do you have something prepared? Do you have something ready from those 20 odd years of research?
Well, a lot of it I've forgotten, and
Right. The wine, presumably.
Yes, I mean but in vino veritas, and
Yeah.
there's definitely some little nuggets in there.
Yep.
And I'd say, there's that thing, isn't there? Everyone's got a novel in them, and I say yes, but not everyone should write it. And but I think I've got more than my fair share of novels, and I've only written really about 2 or 3 of my marriages, and there's a lot more to come out of that. There's also a lot more to come out of the literary world. Maybe that's what I should do.
Yeah.
Maybe I should write, instead of a thinly veiled memoir, maybe I should write an actual memoir and bring them all down,
Yes. Tell it as it
Well, that would
as it
be
is.
fascinating.
Yes, I know some things.
Oh, like
Yeah.
what, Flora? Come on, give us some
Give us a
juicy
little nugget.
bits. Give us an exclusive.
Well,
Hmm.
now, were those, were her stories autobiographies or fictions? Which makes you think, doesn't it? How many bodies are there in the cellar?
Yeah.
Really? Seems unlikely to me. I don't.
I think she would probably get caught if there was that many.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying she did all
yeah.
of them, but you know,
Just a selected.
Right.
a select few.
Just when she was struggling for an idea.
If
maybe
you,
go out
if you read through her back catalogue and you go, hang on a minute, that one's got a ring of truth about it. There's about 5 that are, I would say, factual.
I don't mean to laugh, but it just seems a bit silly.
Sorry, I'm not silly.
I know,
No,
I
the
didn't mean
idea-
you were silly.
the
Flo.
idea
I'm not
seems
saying.
silly.
No, I mean this
I'm
is
not
like
saying you're
rank
silly.
misogyny here. You know, oh, well, here's a woman telling me a thing. It must be just silly,
don't think
silly
so.
woman.
No, not.
saying
I'm
a
not
I don't
thing.
saying
think you
that
need to have a
at all,
chip
no.
on your shoulder about.
Oh, I
just
haven't got
'cause
a
we're
chip on my
men and
shoulder.
you're a
No,
woman.
I haven't got a chip on my shoulder. I just, I just don't like being called silly when I'm. You know, you asked
We're
for the
no,
tidbits.
sorry, we're saying the idea
But
was.
that's my
No,
idea.
the idea
isn't it?
was silly. That's all.
Yeah.
It's just the ideas you
I think
have.
we probably
that are
need
silly,
to say
not,
that legally.
not
That's
you.
it. We don't want to get into more
Well,
legal
Yeah.
battles.
you were
do
the
we,
ones
Flora?
pushing for
You
it.
know?
Oh, come on, Flora, give us a tidbit. I give you one, and
No,
you
I
call
thought
me
you'd just
silly.
say. I thought you'd say something like someone fell over at an awards ceremony, or
Well, why
or
would I
crashed
tell you
the
that?
car
What a
into.
terribly boring story that would be. Here's another reason why you're failing writers, because if that's what you think a
Well,
fun
we're
story
saying
is.
it-
Oh, someone fell
We're
over
just trying
at a
to
party.
tease little bits. We're trying to help with the book. Essentially, we're just trying to tease little bits that we think might be more interesting to
You-
the audience you're searching
Sorry,
for.
more interesting. My books aren't interesting enough in and of them. This is why I hate doing these things.
No, it's. I mean, it's not
you
that
know?
it's not
but-
interesting in and of itself. It's just sometimes you just need just need something to really grab people's attention.
But why are we also obsessed with the person behind the
starting
words?
to
Why
wonder.
do the words speak for themselves? It's celebrity culture gone mad, isn't it? I suppose you're writing a book about Love Island or something, aren't you? Or Love is Blind, or Love, or Married Love, or
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
one of those. That's what
no.
you're writing about.
It sounds like you're getting a little bit a bit upset, Flora. We don't want to sort of.
Oh right, yes. Oh, a woman states an opinion and she's getting upset.
I think Dave was
Is
just
she?
trying
Is she really?
to move on from that rather than poke it with a stick.
Yes,
Poke it.
it's not
it with a
because.
stick. It.
Do you have time? Do you think for just one little nugget just to really sell the book? Because I don't think we've quite done that yet. Is there something that you want to help to?
I gave you a nugget about
Right.
and you ridiculed me. What you want me to tell you about or still? You don't think she writes those ghost stories without some kind of
A ghost?
well,
Yeah.
maybe.
Right. I feel like this conversation has gone a little bit south.
Well, I think it's run its course. To be
Yeah.
honest. Because if
It
this
has
is
gone.
how you interview people, they must. I mean, you must have a lot to choose from.
Well, we just find that most people are a bit more accommodating and
Oh, I see. It's my fault. It's my fault. Yes.
Well, listen, Flora. Maybe we should end there and just say, look, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's been really interesting talking to you, and I'm very much looking forward to reading your next.
Yeah,
book.
thank you.
Well, it's been awful.
Right.
Well, wasn't she? Oh, don't know what we do here.
Interesting.
normally. Interesting. I mean,
She
come
was
on.
interesting. Come on.
What
She is a phenomenal writer.
Do we need to lawyer up?
She's a
writer.
hacky has-been that we should
Come
have even had
on,
on the
Tom.
podcast.
I
mate.
don't think she's really
You
likely
don't.
to sue or anything, though, is she? I don't think.
Nah,
it's-
she'd be too
I
drunk.
don't-
She won't even know what's going on.
True.
She's just.
I don't
no.
think she's ever going to listen to this, to be fair. So I think we
No.
can say whatever
Yeah,
we
fair
want.
enough.
But
Yeah,
no, just
maybe we
yeah.
should just put a pin in it and just move on to something else that's hopefully a bit fresher, a bit newer, and is going to cheer us up a little bit. So
We're moving straight on. We're literally moving straight
I think
on.
that's
you're right,
the
we
best
should.
we can do is no
Yeah,
comment,
yeah.
isn't it? Rather than
It's probably the safest
Yeah.
thing to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
under
yeah.
the circumstances.
yeah.
Ah,
Ah.
yes. It went wrong, oh so wrong, felt so strong that it went wrong, smelled a pong of pure wrong, fell headlong onto a prong, wrote a song about how it went wrong. So Pete Tong, did I mention it went wrong? This song feels like it's already gone on too long, which means this song has also gone wrong. So we're gonna do a whip crack away then.
Yeah, let's.
Yes, I think that's some of the little
Yeah.
perks a little bit, isn't it?
Let's do it.
What have we got in that's fresh and new and not related in any way to what we've just put ourselves through?
Right. Well, someone called A.A. Seeley has sent in. I don't even know what you call this.
I think read the email. That'll be useful because I think she explains it in the email.
Yeah, how does she describe it?
Bonjour. That's not pretentious, is it? Bonjour. Sorry, you just sounded. Who puts that at the start of an email? My name is Avril Ambasili. Oh, she might actually be French. Sorry. My name is Avril Ambasili, pen name A.A. Seeley. Please don't read out my full name. Oops. Obviously, despite as yet not being published at all, I'm not a failing writer. Okay. So I don't really listen to your podcast. This is nice.
Oh, that's
yeah. But an acquaintance told me I should send in my writing for your whip feature that you do. Well, that's where we are.
This is the best one we've had in.
Oh, it's an interesting one. It's a good one.
I don't really... Oh, I like this. Have you read this email? I don't really need a lot of feedback, so you don't need to do a lot of that. I mean, all right. That's literally the point of the... What? I mainly write in the railway romance genre, which is apparently romance tales that involve steam trains to varying extents.
Sounds nice.
This is my first foray into Norse god space romantasy. I know this is an overcrowded genre, but as you'll see, my output is such that I can easily take on different markets without much issue. That's unpublished, but full of confidence. That's good. And then, she goes on saying she wants to be paid for... Well, we can...
Yeah, she really hasn't listened, has she?
No, she's not listened. Yeah, so this is a first foray into a brand new genre, which is quite exciting.
Yeah.
We'll certainly get behind that. That's
sexy
good.
Vikings, sounds like. So I'm up for that.
Well, why don't you read it to us then, Davey?
Well, then maybe I will. Hammer and Thongs by A.A. Seeley. Space was black, the colour of night with your eyes shut tight. And right now, the eyes of the demi-goddess Helga Ragnarsdottir were shut tighter than they'd ever been before. She was panting like the great wolf Garm as he guarded the very gates of hell. Her back arched above the bed like the entrance to the halls of Valhalla, her moans louder than the loud sub-warp engines of the space cruiser Gokstad 7 as it rattled through the inky black, empty blackness of deep space. The journey had begun as a quest to find the ancient kingdom of Asgard, but as Helga writhed alone on the silken sheets in her luxurious boudin noir, she realized it had descended into a quest for pure, naked, raw, untamed, undiluted, unadulterated pleasure. Thor knows it wasn't supposed to be this way. Helga was a warrioress, a princess born in the imperial palace of New Uppsala, daughter of King Ragnar the Brave and Queen Frida the Rampant. This mission was her destiny, and it was also what she was born to do. From birth, it had been foretold she would be the chosen one, chosen to lead the true children of Odin back to their ancient ancestral home amongst the shining stars. Her childhood had been one of sacrifice. Whilst the other boys and girls had played in the courtyard of Castle Aarhus, enjoying the peace and plenty that flowed through and embraced the kingdom like a cosy and prosperous lamb's wool scarf, following her father's victory in the Second War of the Violets, Helga would spend every hour the gods sent training hard. The sword, the shield, the bow, the Viking nunchucks, these were her only friends. The taste of her own blood, shed in battle, her only comfort. Her scars, bulging muscles, and beautiful, tired body, all she had to show for her tireless efforts. As a teenager, she'd watched her peers court and marry and bear children to continue their family lines, but she must remain pure. Only a virgin of the faith, a woman untouched by the hands of man, could hope to follow the righteous path, to navigate the treacherous curves of the Bifrost as it slithered through the galaxy portals. And thus came the day when, shining with virtue, unknowing of the pleasures of the flesh, with 1,000 rippling warriors at her back, she uttered the sacred vows before the great and good of the kingdom, swearing, with the gods as her witness, that she would lead her people once more unto the glorious gates of Asgard, or, if things went bad, possibly die trying, or worse. It was only as she stood on the deck of Gokstad 7 and firmly gripped the captain's joystick for the first time that she realized she made a terrible mistake and was likely to soon have a terrible mess on her hands. Fulskard Aprelson was wiping down the pumps in the engine room when he felt the tremors begin. He was a humble man, his family status far too low to ever be afforded the position of warrior. Orphaned in the final days of the Great Wars, he had been sold to the Engineers' Guild by his uncle for little more than a stale loaf of bread and a lump of hard, unyielding cheese. Like his uncle's heart, not cheesy, but stale and unyielding. Long had he watched the movements of the princess, long and hard. Only once had he gotten close enough to take in the very heady musk of her scent, on the day she'd been ushered through the bowels of the ship for a purely symbolic inspection, and yet it intoxicated him still. Her aroma lingering in the firm and fulsome mass of his convoluted beard. The other slaves had mocked him when he'd been given the position of pump wiperer, and yet he saw it as if a gift from the gods. These pumps that carried the very lifeblood of the vessel, the strange thixotropic liquid, thick with thorsman, that powered the warp engines, were not just vital to this mission. They were vital to his desires. Though he was responsible daily for wiping troublesome condensate from their entire length, from stem to stern, it was here in midship that he most often lingered. For right above where he now stood, his chest rippling and heaving, dripping with perspiration, was the Lady Helga's private chamber. No man had ever entered her inner sanctum, nor been permitted to see what lay beneath her golden armour. But as Fulskard stood with eyes closed, his hands gripping the pump shaft, he could hear each movement, each sharp intake of breath, and he imagined. Oh yes, he imagined. And as the tremors grew, he imagined how it would feel to thrust open her doors, to stride into her chamber and wrest the shining armour from her glistening torso to reveal her orbulous bosoms. His whole body shook like a lightly electrocuted person with anticipation. And as it shook, he slowly realized it was not just him that was shaking. That the tremors were not just coming from above, that the screams he could hear were not just those of his lady's pleasure. The screams were of pain. The tremors were the spasms of the ship as it buckled under torpedo blasts. They were under attack. They had found him at last.
Yeah, there you go. What did you guys...
Don't laugh, right? But I thought that this was actually really clever, this piece.
Hey?
And I can see why AA might have a certain, swagger about her work.
I mean, she's got something. We can definitely say she's got something.
Yeah. No, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Really? Puts you right in there. Do you know what I mean? You're straight in there.
I suppose, yeah, I did
into
get a
the
feeling.
Story. There's no messing about, is there?
I felt like I was on that ship.
Yeah, in medias res.
For sure. Yeah.
I like, here's a thing from the first paragraph that I spotted. I love that repetition of black, which becomes almost like a sort of sexy incantation.
A motif for it, yeah.
Yeah.
See, maybe I didn't look deep.
I wondered if she was kind of... Because she keeps repeating, and I was wondering if she was sort of drawing a contrast between the exterior of the spaceship, i.e., space itself, and the warm, deep interior of the demigoddess. Or maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's...
Oh, you mean so like the entire... So there's the spaceship itself was like a metaphor for
for her inner
deep
sanctum.
internals.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I didn't.
Just something
get
like
I
that.
didn't get that.
Thought it
I
could
didn't.
be.
Yeah, I think maybe.
But it was raw. It was pretty raunchy without being overtly explicit, wasn't it?
What? There were moments.
And there was some wonderful symbolism.
Yeah, there were moments when it reached like the edge of erotica, and then
It
just
reached
pulled
climaxes,
back.
didn't it?
Well, it almost did, but then it was like edging in some way. It sort of got nearly there, but then pulled back just enough so you could hold on.
And isn't that what you want when you're reading this kind of thing? You want to be taken right up to the edge.
I suppose, yeah, because otherwise you're never going to get to
Nipped
the
in the
end
bud.
of the story, are you? If it just,
Well,
you know what I
that's
mean?
true.
If it's like
Yeah.
in the first couple of paragraphs, why
it's
read
what? Sorry,
on?
Dave?
If it's like straight away, you never get
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
end. And I've got to say
Yeah, it's
that
true.
I think possibly my favourite bit was the very last few words of the chapter. I was thinking, what?
Oh, I love that as well.
Yeah, like
What a way to make you want to read on.
they've found him at last.
So what do you think in that? Do you
What?
think he's like he's actually one of the chosen ones as well? He's got royal-
Well, you
gotta
see,
be,
because
hasn't he?
he's an orphan, isn't he?
Is this
And
just a
he's been
rip-off
sort
of Star Wars then? Is that what we're saying? Is he going to end up
Hey,
being...
isn't
I
everything?
suppose it is a
Princess's
bit,
Isn't
brother.
everything,
yeah,
Tom?
or sort
And
of
then-
Games of
Yeah.
Thrones.
Oh, she's not. Oh no, they're
thing.
not going to be brother and sister.
Yeah.
That's going to be awkward, isn't it?
Oh,
I
Oh,
think
that's
so,
very
yeah.
awkward.
I
Oh,
think
that-
so. But I get the feeling that AAC League won't pull back from that.
oh,
I don't
yeah.
think that's going to be the stopping
No.
point that it
Yeah.
was
Not
for
gonna
George
be a
Lucas.
censorship
Yeah.
point.
No.
But yeah, it's some of the symbolism, the navigating the treacherous curves of the Bifrost as it slithered through the galaxy portals. Oh, come on.
Yes.
Or he was responsible daily for wiping troublesome condensate from their entire length from stem to stem. And I felt like that's obviously a reference, sort of symbolic reference to his need for spiritual cleansing, isn't it? You know, the
I mean-
condensation
Oh, right, okay.
being like
Yeah,
a
again,
foggy
That's
veil.
one of them. I think that
That's
is one of
not
the
how
meanings
I
you could
read
read
it.
into
Yeah,
that.
Over.
That is-
You
no, I
could-
think, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to
It's
go with
about his
John's. I think that
metaphysical
is-
journey, isn't it?
It
I
is,
think.
yeah.
Very
Yeah.
clever, very
Yeah.
clever.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great.
I'm not sure I enjoyed it on the same level as you, John. I definitely
Well, I
enjoyed
don't
it,
think a
but
lot of people do,
No.
Dave. I don't think a
Yeah,
lot of people
that's
do.
true.
But that's just.
I think
just
that's
how it
the thing,
works.
isn't it? When you get into proper literature,
Mm.
Yeah.
that it does give different people different things.
Yeah, on
True.
different
Yeah,
layers.
when something's written to such a deep level, then maybe,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
you can
You know-
dig all sorts.
There's a lot of confidence in I like the confidence in the writing.
Oh, there is a lot
That
of
is true.
confidence. Yeah,
That is
that's
Just
true.
it's kind of like, I'm going to write this. I don't care whether you think it's wrong or
Yeah.
you know, you shouldn't have a list of 5 adjectives in a row or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't care.
She
I
It's
don't care.
cocky, isn't
Wanted
it? It's
him
as
in there.
cocky as the email that she sent it with.
That's
which is
true.
great.
It does fit actually when you say that.
Do you know what? You
Hmm.
need that. You need confidence. If you don't believe that what you're writing is any good, why the hell is anyone else going to enjoy
Yeah,
it? Do you know what
yeah.
I mean? You've
No,
got
exactly.
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
Put it out there.
And boy, did she.
She certainly did. But
It's
I did. Do you
all
know
out
what?
there.
I did. I liked the way it sort of, it kind of. There was enough to sort of get you thinking. I want to know where this goes. Not just in a sort of sexy way, but in terms of like there's
Well,
a.
we want that as well, obviously. But
Yeah, obviously
you're
you
right.
need a bit of that if it's going to be like an erotic type thing. But
Mm.
this felt like the start of an opus in some ways.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
there was an epic element to it. I thought.
Yeah, definitely. Like
So,
the start of a sort of 12-part series, 12 volumes, in a massive series.
Can I ask you boys a question, though?
Go on.
Can I ask you boys a question? So we've read this. If it turned out, and I'm not saying this is the case, I don't think it is. If it turned out that this, in fact, was a revenge piece written by Flora Orpil to make us look stupid.
And she sent it in under a pseudonym.
Yeah.
This is way better.
That's-
This is way better
dunno.
than anything that old hag's pulled out for
Hey.
years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Come on.
Hey, steady on.
You're probably right, mate. You're probably right.
Actually, it's not dissimilar to some of her writing, to be fair.
No, that's what made me think.
Maybe.
With some of her, the books in the middle of her works are a bit kind of.
I think that's still
Yeah.
a stretch.
But anyway,
Probably
Avril,
a stretch.
Avril Ambasili, thank you for sending that in. That's interesting, I would say.
Yeah. And the cheque is absolutely not in the post.
Yeah, what's that about?
Nor will it
Nor
ever
will
be.
it ever be. Don't even have a chequebook.
It's
So-
all right. A last line of an email after she's asked for payment is, I'm somewhat relying on your integrity and honesty with regards to that. As mentioned previously, I will most likely not be listening to the podcast. Kindest regards.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough. All right.
Yeah.
Happy days.
Actually, though, let's think about this.
Mm.
She said that an acquaintance, she didn't say friend, but an acquaintance told her that she should be sending it in. That means that somebody
Someone listening right
has
now.
actually shared what we've asked them to share.
Yeah.
That's good. Word of mouth.
That is good.
It is spreading.
Yeah.
This is second-hand
Brilliant.
evidence.
Is there a point where we should say be picky about who you share it with, or are we just happy for all comers?
anything?
We don't care.
Anything.
Anyone.
Yeah, we're not
Anyone.
picky, are we?
Right. Well,
Is that all we've got time for? Is that what you're going to say, Tom?
I think that probably is
Yeah.
all we've got
I
time
think
for.
it
Is
might
that
be. I think that's a good
Yeah.
place to
Yeah,
shut things
that's,
down.
That's been a strange old do. That.
An interesting episode.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, all that remains to say is just like the acquaintance of Avril, whatever her name was. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends, and give us a review. All the usual stuff. Subscribe. Yeah, what people say, and come back next week.
Yeah, we've got an episode next week, a little in between the episode. So we will see you there.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Au revoir for Avril.
Hello.
Hello.
Where's everybody gone?